We live in a culture that worships the grind. From the moment we enter school until the day we retire, we are bombarded with a singular, relentless message. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. We are told that tenacity is the ultimate virtue, that hitting a brick wall simply means we aren't hitting it hard enough. But this advice, all well-intentioned, is often dangerous. It ignores a fundamental law of nature, a law that governs survival in the wild and success in the human experience. Sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is stop. Sometimes, giving up is the only way to eventually win. To understand this, we must look away from the motivational posters and turn our gaze toward the African savanna. Consider the cheetah, the fastest land animal on the planet. It is a marvel of biological engineering, capable of accelerating from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds. When a cheetah locks onto its prey, a gazelle perhaps, it commits to an explosive expenditure of energy. Its heart rate skyrockets, its muscles burn oxygen at a furious pace, and its body temperature rises rapidly. But here is the crucial observation. The cheetah fails more often than it succeeds. In fact, nearly half of its hunts end without a kill. But watch closely what happens during a failed hunt. If the chase drags on for too long, usually anything over a minute, the cheetah does something the human society would label as quitting. It stops, it decelerates. It watches the gazelle sprint away. Why? Is the cheetah lazy? Is it lacking grit? No. The cheetah is a master of risk management. It understands a biological reality that we often forget: the cost of the chase. If the cheetah pushes its body beyond the red line, it risks overheating to the point of brain damage or death. Even if it catches the gazelle, after an extended, exhausting sprint, it might be too weak to defend its prize from hyenas or lions. A successful hunt that leaves the predator vulnerable to death is not a victory. It is a catastrophic failure. The cheetah engages in a strategic retreat. It calculates that the energy required to continue the chase exceeds the potential reward. By giving up on this specific gazelle, the cheetah preserves its energy reserves for the next opportunity, an opportunity where the odds might be slightly better, the distance slightly shorter, and the return on investment significantly higher. The cheetah gives up today so that it can survive to hunt tomorrow. We, however, are rarely as wise as the cheetah. In psychology and economics, this inability to walk away is known as the sunk cost fallacy. This is the phenomenon where we continue to invest time, money, or emotional energy into a losing endeavor, simply because we have already invested so much. We stay in toxic relationships because we've been together for 5 years. We pour money into a failing business because we don't want to admit the initial capital is gone. We cling to a career path that makes us miserable because we spent 4 years studying for the degree. We convince ourselves that we are showing resilience, but in reality, we are just digging a deeper hole. We are chasing the gazelle across the horizon, overheating our engines, allowing to the fact that even if we catch it, the cost will destroy us. We fail to see that every moment spent fighting a losing battle is a moment stolen for a potential winning one. The art of strategic retreat requires a shift in perspective. It demands that we view our resources, our time, our capital, our mental sanity, as finite. Just like the cheetah's glycogen stores, you do not have an unlimited supply of willpower or years in your life. When you choose to disengage from a situation that no longer serves you, you are not admitting defeat. You are engaging in resource preservation. You are stopping the bleeding. Imagine looking at your life through the eyes of that predator. Where are you sprinting toward a target that has already moved out of range? Where are you burning yourself out for a reward that, even if achieved, will leave you too exhausted to enjoy it? The first step in mastering the art of strategic retreat is to kill the ego that says, "I must finish what I started," and replace it with the wisdom that asks, "Is this chase still worth the price I am paying?" History is littered with generals who won battles but lost wars. One of the most famous examples comes from King Pyrrhus of Epirus, whose name gave us the term Pyrrhic victory. In his wars against Rome, he defeated the Roman legions in battle, but his own army suffered such devastating casualties in the process that he famously remarked, "If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined." This is the dark side of unyielding persistence. It is the victory that tastes like ash. In our modern lives, a Pyrrhic victory looks like the promotion that destroys your marriage. It looks like the financial milestone that costs you your health. It looks like winning an argument with a loved one, only to damage the trust in the relationship permanently. These are moments where we refuse to retreat, refuse to concede, and secured a win that actually left us worse off than before. Why do we do this? Why is it so incredibly difficult to say, "I am stopping"? The answer lies deep within our psychological architecture, specifically tied to our identity and social signaling. We are social creatures, and for millennia, our survival depended on our standing within the tribe. To be seen as weak, flighty, or incompetent was a death sentence. Therefore, we developed a profound fear of public failure. When we consider retreating from a career path or a long-term project, we aren't just calculating the financial loss. We are battling the perceived loss of status. We worry about what our parents will think, what our peers will whisper, and most terrifyingly, what we will think of ourselves. The ego screams that retreating is an admission that we weren't good enough. It interprets a strategic pivot as a character flaw. However, the most successful strategists in history viewed retreat not as a character flaw, but as a tactical maneuver. Consider the strategy of Fabius Maximus, the Roman general tasked with saving Rome from Hannibal. Hannibal was a tactical genius. Meeting him in open battle was suicide. So Fabius did the unthinkable. He refused to fight. He retreated. He maneuvered. He harassed Hannibal's supply lines, but avoided the main confrontation. The Romans hated it. They called him a coward. They wanted a hero to charge in and smash the enemy. But Fabius understood that preserving the Roman army was more important than satisfying the ego of the Roman mob. His strategy of delay and retreat eventually wore Hannibal down. He didn't win by fighting harder. He won by knowing when not to fight at all. In your life, you are the general. Your resources, your attention, your savings, your emotional bandwidth are your army. If you throw them into a battle where the terrain is unfavorable and the enemy is entrenched, you are not being brave. You are being reckless. Strategic retreat is the discipline of detaching your ego from your outcome. It is the realization that your identity is not defined by a single job, a single relationship, or a single project. You must become like a portfolio manager. If a stock is tanking and the fundamentals have changed, a good manager sells. They don't hold on to it out of emotional attachment or hope. They sell, salvage the remaining capital, and redeploy it into an asset with better growth potential. This requires a brutally honest audit of your current trajectory. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. If you were not already in this situation, would you enter it today knowing what you know now? If the answer is no, then you are only staying to justify your past mistakes. You are protecting a version of yourself that no longer exists. True strength is the ability to look at a pursuit that has consumed years of your life and say, "This is no longer the way." It is the ability to endure the temporary discomfort of quitting for the long-term gain of realignment. It is understanding that you are not giving up on your destination. You are simply acknowledging that this particular road is a dead end. You are backing out of the cul-de-sac so you can find the highway. The retreat is not the end of the journey. It is the necessary correction that makes finishing the journey possible. If we accept that retreat is valid, how do we execute it? How do we distinguish between a strategic withdrawal and simply giving up because things got hard? The difference lies in intention and preparation. Panic is running away from something. Strategy is walking away toward something else. Think of the mechanics of an archer. To propel an arrow forward with maximum force, the archer must first pull the string backward. The tension created by this backward motion is what generates the power for the forward flight. This is the physical embodiment of strategic retreat. You are not stepping back to hollow out your life. You are stepping back to gather tension, to gain perspective, and to accumulate the potential energy required for your next launch. When you decide to retreat, you must do so with the mindset of a student, not a victim. The time spent in that failed venture was not wasted. It was tuition. You paid with your time and effort to learn what doesn't work. Maybe you learned that you hate corporate management. Maybe you learned that the restaurant business isn't for you. Maybe you learned that you need a partner who values quiet over excitement. That data is invaluable. It is the intelligence report you carry into your next campaign. The execution of a strategic retreat involves 3 phases: acceptance, conservation, and redeployment. Acceptance is the moment of clarity. It is the cessation of denial. It is looking at the numbers, the feelings, and the reality without the filter of what I wish this was. It is a moment of silence where you stop fighting the current and let yourself float. Conservation is the act of gathering your remaining scraps. When you leave a draining situation, you need a period of recovery. Just as the cheetah pants heavily after the failed chase to lower its body temperature, you need to lower your cortisol. You need to protect your remaining finances. You need to heal your nervous system. This phase is dangerous because society will tell you to get back on the horse immediately. But jumping from one dysfunction immediately into another is not resilience. It is a rebound. You must take the time to hoard your resources until you are strong again. Finally, there is redeployment. This is where the retreat transforms into victory. Because you saved your energy, because you didn't burn out completely in a futile war, you now have the capacity to seize a new opportunity. And often, this new opportunity is one you could not even see while you were stuck in the trenches of the old battle. By zooming out, by stepping back, the entire map becomes visible. We must also reconsider our relationship with time. We often fear that by quitting now, we have wasted the last 5 years. But the only thing more tragic than wasting 5 years is wasting 5 years and 1 day. The time is gone. It is an unrecoverable cost. The only time you have agency over is the future. Strategic retreat is an investment in that future. It is a declaration that your future self is more important than your past self's mistakes. Nature favors the adaptable, not the stubborn. The trees that survive the storm are the ones that bend, not the ones that try to remain rigid and snap. The animals that survive are the ones that know when to hide, when to flee, and when to attack. So, look at your life today. Where are you fighting a war of attrition? Where are you hoping that if you just suffer a little longer, things will magically change? Give yourself the permission to stop. Give yourself the permission to sheath your sword. There is no shame in survival. There is no shame in changing course. In the grand scheme of your life, the strategic retreat might just be the turning point that leads you to the victory you are actually destined for. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. And sometimes you have to stop running to finally find where you are going.